Hello, this is Faith at Hausfraud Homestead. It has been a while. It had been a while since the last one, too. So I thought I would just hop on here today and make a chatty, rambly little update video because I am prone to episodes of analysis paralysis wherein I get overwhelmed with the amount of ideas I have and the amount of things I want to do and end up doing nothing, which has been the case on this channel for some time. So videos kind of took a hit because I had convinced myself that I needed to be making non-traditional homemaking content, and non-on-brand things needed to be a lower priority, which kind of put a stop in the creative process there. And I also had some estranged family find my channel and follow me, which added some friction to the whole thing. So I'm trying to... This video is meant as a means of my getting past that hump of what am I going to do next, what am I going to share, what am I not going to share, and just pulling the finger out of the dam, so to speak. So I figure I asked for questions, I didn't get any answer, or I asked if you guys had any questions, I didn't get any back, so I'm just going to kind of go point by point as I think of things. There might be some rants in there intermittently, but I'm going to try and touch on what has been going on, what sort of things I've been up to without making full videos on each of them in one video, saving something for later. So a lot of this last spring, and this is a good thing for me but a bad thing for the channel, is I've been coming out of something like 10 years of recluse mode. So a lot of my homemaking and homesteading lifestyle had been built on the premise that I'm not going to leave the house very often. I'm not going to see other people very often. I'm not going to have a lot going on weekends and after work and things like that. And that has not been the case in the last couple years. So I've gotten behind on some of the homemaking and homesteading tasks because I've had a lot of activities, which is a good thing, I think. I've been square dancing a lot, which has been... I could extol the virtues of square dancing all day. It's been great for my mental health. It's a physical activity. It's a social activity. It's a skill that I'm building, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. So that's been weekly, if not more. Just got back from a festival. That was a lot of fun for square dancing. And so between that and neighbor groups, I've been also seeing some friends more often. I have less free time to craft and harvest and plant and do all the other homemaking things, but I think I kind of needed that. I've done a lot of work on myself and on my property, whatever property I've been on, for the better part of a decade, and have been in various stages of burnout for most of that time. And I feel like this year I've kind of gotten just to exist and play a little bit and not have to be on a schedule and meet a quota for a lot of things in my life, and that's been really nice. So I'm not in a hurry to exit this stage, even if it's not totally sustainable to be behind on things. But what that's kind of manifested in is really reducing what I put on my plate. So I had been very goal-oriented and overbooked myself historically, and this year everything is pretty flexible. Whether it is or not, I don't know. I'm sure I could be optimizing things more, but I don't feel like putting that pressure on myself this year, at least for the things that are technically optional. So I've bumped deadlines, the self-imposed deadlines, several times for the garden, and I'm just kind of letting myself be led by when I have time and when I feel up to it, because other factors have been, and this is also a good thing, I went off hormonal birth control in February, and I was shocked at the effect it had on my personality and my energy levels, which kind of says something about um, how approximately 25% of the population is in some level of an altered state of consciousness on these birth control pills. So I have been more outgoing. I have had more fluctuating energy. So I'm blessed with a pretty regular cycle, thank God. So I can pretty much predict when I'm going to be functional and when I'm not. But I'm much more of a cyclical creature now. I think I was the whole time, and I was just masked by birth control. But I'm having to kind of schedule my life around when I'm going to have that energy and that vitality, and when I'm going to be less so. So it's like having almost a mini year every month of, spring, summer, fall, winter, and just living seasonally on that micro level. And sometimes it's frustrating because my good days don't always correspond with the good weather or free time or things like that. So there have been times when it's been a beautiful, sunny, perfect day to get something done, and I've been down and out with cramps or something. Or it's been terrible weather, but I feel great and want to get out in the garden. So that's a little bit annoying. I liked to fantasize about this, idyllic state of oneness with nature where my cycle would sync up with the cycles of nature and everything would work out, and we're not quite there yet. Sometimes it happens, and that's really cool when that takes place, but there's been a lot of having to give myself grace and flexibility and lean into what my body's guiding me to do at any given time. And sometimes that's rest when it's frustrating, and sometimes that's getting up and going and doing something when there's not a good occasion for it. But it's been very interesting to be off that hormonal altered state of consciousness and see who I am without it. It's been a radical personality shift fundamentally. I'm much more social than I used to be. My threshold for touch and various forms of touch has increased, and that's led me to question a lot of identities I've previously held. So I used to identify as asexual, and I kind of leaned away from all of those labels for some time, like autistic, that kind of thing, ADHD. But I caught on TikTok, of all things, which is, not that I agree with the overlords behind TikTok by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just not a high enough priority for me to resist. And I'm actually getting a lot of really neat information from there. Like, I've been down the rabbit hole of MTHFR gene mutations and how they can not be causal, but be correlated strongly with a lot of the issues I've had, such as, gut issues, probable ADHD, autism symptoms, that kind of thing. And how interconnected all of these funky things I've had going on my whole life are. Like, I learned that connective tissue disorders are linked to autism and ADHD, and I've had loose joints my whole life. I've had TMI lumpy grandma legs my whole life, and apparently lipedema is a thing where you make abnormal fat cells, and that is tied to connective tissue disorders as well. So the neat thing about this, and the reason why I'm kind of identifying with the autism label more, even though I'm not formally diagnosed and don't intend to be, is because I feel like there's something I can do about it now. Not that I'm gonna try and cure it. I'm not that far gone. But there have been a number of supplements I've been trying, like methylated B complex and N-acetylcysteine and other things that the internet is giving me anecdotal evidence work for people with my issues. So I've had good success with that. I think I had what could be, like almost a detox die-off thing where I had very low energy for almost a month, and that was annoying. But then I kind of like sprang up like a bat out of hell after that, and I've been feeling pretty solid since then. So I think that's carrying some weight and bearing some fruit, which is nice. So I'm identifying with those labels insofar as they help me to find things I can do about them, and so far I'm less neurotic about my differences when I can point them back to a probable gene mutation that's common in like 40% of the population, and especially those of European descent. So that's been cool. And I've also had to, because I like to kid myself that the most sustainable diet is the one that is local to you and seasonal to you. But knowing that I more than likely have this mutation where I'm not methylating folate properly, that I would be getting from fruits and vegetables, and therefore my guts are out of whack and things like that, I'm trying to titrate down the um, minimum effective supplements that I can kind of piece together the rest of my life with. So I've been doing that and fulvic acid, which I feel pretty good about. It's a fossil fuel fundamentally, but when you consider how depleted our soils are, and the fact that we can go through the same pantomime practices of our ancestors and still have much lower nutrient quality in our food, sometimes modern problems require modern solutions. So I'm not pushing myself to be off supplements fully. I'm also not pushing myself as much to eat perfectly at home. I've been enjoying going out and, eating out with friends and things like that, and having a beer. I like beer, clearly. So I'm less perfectionistic about being perfectly sustainable and perfectly healthy at all times. I try to eat well at home. I try to eat out of the yard at home, but I'm not as rigid about it. So, and that's manifested in I'm not losing weight like I'd like to, but I can. I fit the same size for 10 years. I'm a size up now. I think I'll live if I buy a few more clothes. So I'm just relaxing more, fundamentally, is what it comes down to, and not trying to use that as an excuse necessarily, but so since taking plant medicine, it's almost like my brain and my body will not let me return to that state of overfunctioning that I'd lived in my whole life, because it knows that no good comes from that. So a lot of how I sustained what I did before and functioned at a higher level fundamentally was what I'm now coming to see was as some kind of autistic masking, and is not fundamentally sustainable for my neurology and my psychology, and my physiology. So having accepted this about myself, and like if you don't think self-diagnosis is valid, that's fine. I go back and forth about whether I'm just excusing laziness on myself, but I'm having a better time existing when I'll say hi to Andy over here. He's been pissing in my squash, so he's persona non grata right now. I'm fundamentally less productive than I've ever been, and I'm also having a better time, and I think that's okay. Like, now that I'm kind of over my existential guilt about, taking something and not giving anything back, I am letting myself just exist more and take up space and consume a little bit, and not feel like I have to erase every single footprint I make. And that's healthier for me mentally. I've been less of a raw nerve lately, which has been great. But, I still go back and forth on, like, should I be capable of more? Should I be pushing myself harder? And I haven't had a why to push myself harder, so I think that's fine for now. I don't know. Maybe I'm just making excuses for myself. But that's kind of where the homesteading and homemaking has been taking a bit of a hit. Like, I'll try and pan you around a little bit. We've had extremely heavy rain in Colorado for almost 2 months, and that means that things have gotten overgrown, things have gotten washed out. I've got a lot of catch up to do. The garden's planted, the dome is doing well. I finally got on top of a lot of the plagues happening in the dome, so I'll probably do another dome tour at some point and kind of show what's working, what's not. The garden's a little behind this year because I have, 6 to 8 inches of mulch everywhere, and has also been torrential downpours every day, so nothing has been inspired to put on a root system. So everything's kind of stunted right now. I think we've got some sun and warmth in the forecast, so that should help us catch up a little bit. But June's always like an underwhelming time of year. My potatoes look incredible. They're in the back raised beds over there, and they're looking swell. I'm trying interplanting those with corn this year for like a modified Three Sisters, more like Two Sisters. Um, so we'll see about that, how that goes. Front yard is doing pretty well. I finally have some perennials filling in, so that's been nice. I guess animal update I can do. Chickens are doing well. We finally got our first broody hen last week, so that was fun. We had to break her of that, and that was an entertaining experience. Had a mite scare, but I think that's under control. And we have 4 new babies downstairs, so they're going to be going outside pretty soon once I figure out the game plan to integrate them better. Because we have one who was supposed to be 2 weeks older than the other babies and is at least 4 weeks older. He's like a giant in there, so... but that was the breed I really wanted, so I'll probably do a critter update at some point. Pepper the pig is doing well. She's kind of plateauing a little bit in her weight, which is nice. So we're hoping that she doesn't get enormous, because we don't know for a fact that she's a mini pig. So that could be interesting. But she sleeps on the couch and hangs out with the chickens. There is not a single weed in their part of the yard right now. They have picked that clean. I have a pasture that I put in for them, but it's been so rainy that nothing I planted in the pasture has enough of a root system to support their grazing on it yet, so I'm hoping in another week or two we can put them out there and get some more fodder. But they've been eating, goodies out of the dome, and they're pretty well fed, and there's bugs everywhere, so that's been great. Cats are doing well. We had one emergency scare with a cat who got a nail pulled off, and that was a thing. And I've got a little cat emergency PTSD from a couple years ago when we had 3 in the emergency room at the same time over 10 days, and that was like a $10,000 hit, so luckily, knock on wood, it hasn't been that. But that has been keeping us somewhat busy. And outdoor boys are doing well. We have another faction of the feral colony that's moved back in, so got more kitties coming and going, and that's been they're a neat little ecosystem. So at some point I'll probably do a video on how the chickens and the pig and the cats all kind of interact to support each other, and it wasn't even intentional, but it's working out that way. That's all that. I do have a slight rant about the tyranny of branding and productivity and having a niche, because I feel like I am obliged to talk about homemaking and homesteading content by merit of being a homemaking and homesteading channel. And I kind of resent the fact that it's assumed, if you're any kind of productive human in society, that your name is associated with a brand. And that brand is a niche, and you're catering to the specific facet of your personality at the expense of all else, in the name of profits and algorithmic attention and things like that. And I've just been sour about that, because there's a lot of things I want to talk about, but then I kind of censor myself because I know they're not germane to the topics I've determined this channel is about. And I need to just fundamentally get over that. I'd love to talk about, the witchcrafting is still on the table. I'll probably talk about that at some point. All the, gene mutation autism stuff has been interesting, and I'd like to be able to just vent about what I'm finding interesting in the moment, because that's when I'm inspired to make a video, and I'm not putting it on myself to schedule things that I'm not inspired to do, because I'm not making money at this. And I don't want to make it about money in the first place. So, I just need to get over the notion that I have to make everything pertinent to those interests. Because, YouTubers complain about that all the time, where they feel pigeonholed and they stop creating anything. I've been dabbling in electroculture, and it could be a placebo, I don't know. There's a lot of things I do around here that are, you know, worst case scenario, it looks cool, it was fun to do, it's a mental hack. It may or may not do anything, but it's something I'm playing with. I've been making cheeses. That's been fun. I've got a blue cheese and a cheddar going, so just experimenting with raw milk. Trying to think of what else I've been up to. There's been less kitchen and home experiments, which I'm kind of sad about because those are some of my favorite things to do. But I'm enjoying this season of life where I feel young again almost. Because I've been on this trajectory of like feeling 20 years at least older than I had been, than I am, and like kind of just waiting to fizzle out and die, you know. And I'm enjoying having this increased vitality and this sense of like attunement to my feminine energy. That's been nice, and I've arrived at more acceptance of myself fundamentally. So there's been less pressure to produce in every facet of that word, and I'm not rushing through it because I don't know when I'm going to get a season like this again. So if this is like the preordained cosmic break in the grind, I'll take it. And I think we're all burnt out after the last 3 years of constant crises, so I'm not in a hurry to create a crisis for myself, I guess. So that's kind of where I am on things. I've got a few little projects to do around here today. I've been piecing together yard stuff on Marketplace, and I would like to paint it to be a uniform color scheme and clean up some stuff around here. There's a wasp nest up here I got to take care of. So I've got some little projects around here now that we have some sun and it's not a downpour every day. And yeah, that's kind of where I am at the moment. I'm hoping to make more content of some description soon when I get over feeling like it has to be a specific flavor of things. If there's anything specific that you guys want to hear about, or hear more about, that would be helpful because I am a sucker for external validation. So if there's anything of interest topic wise or anything I've touched on today that you'd like to hear more about, that would light a fire under my ass to make another video of a longer form kind of thing. There's been a lot of things I wanted to talk about, and I've just, let them go on the pile. So if I can isolate it down to a specific topic of, du jour, I might be able to go back to every couple weeks or so, which would be nice. Because I enjoy hearing from you guys, and for me it's more of a community thing than a monetary thing or like a brand thing, God forbid. It's been neat to find on the internet other like-minded folks who are kind of this is something I noticed also. I put out a little poll amongst you guys, and an overwhelming majority of you said that you were interested in homemaking and homesteading as a function of corporate burnout. So I think there's an element of that anti-establishment in this community that is really cool. And I've always been jaded about, like, YouTube communities and the tribalism of that, and I don't want it to get that way, and I don't think it is, at least on this channel. But it's been neat to hear that my experience is not singular, I guess. So I love hearing from you guys. Any comments, questions, ideas are welcome. Any thoughts on this or other topics? And yeah, I'm trying to get a pulse back in this channel. So thanks for your patience and for continuing to, like, comment, and subscribe even when I've been incognito. So have a good one. See ya.